Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Burnett Church this morning. I'm really glad you're here. I'm really glad to be back teaching and preaching. I've had a few weeks off. Thank you so much for the gift of trying to get clarity on what's coming in the summer or the fall, excuse me. I'm really happy to kind of be back in the saddle. And so today I wanted to start off a new season of preaching just by focusing in on who I feel like our church is called to be, what our essence and our ethos is. Hopefully, this is helpful to some of you who have just connected with us over the course of the summer, and hopefully, it's a help to those of you who have been here a while to kind of remember and come back to and reclaim, another ministry season, another season of getting excited and moving. I want to start this morning by telling a story that I told a little bit on social media, but I just wanted to share it with the rest of you. July 19th was kind of a busy, important, and hectic day in my life. We were supposed to be flying to Nova Scotia to visit my mom and dad. But as many of you know, Mel has not been feeling fantastic over the summer. Let me pause and say a deep thank you from our family for all of you who have been praying and asking and helping in small and large ways to just make this season a little bit easier on our family. We deeply appreciate the love and feel it in the very depths of our being. We're so thrilled and happy to be part of such a caring community. So thank you for that. But because Mel hasn't been feeling well, her doctors told her she's not allowed to fly. And so I was taking the twins, just me and the two of them, to Nova Scotia so that we could see their grandma and spend some time with them. Melissa and Layla were not going to be able to come with us, and that was a bit of a bummer. We're already two people down. And then we get to the airport and we go to use our boarding passes, and they tell us that our flights have been canceled. If you remember, July 19th was the day that the CrowdStrike update took down many, many, many computers worldwide. I read somewhere that in total 8.5 million PCs did not work on that day when it tried to push the CrowdStrike update. And most Canadian airlines were unaffected, except one, which was Porter, and that was the one that we were flying on. So we got to the airport and it was canceled, which all of that might have led to kind of a bummer of a day, except that our Uber ride over had been, well, somewhat extraordinary. We met a new friend. His name is Uday. Uday is a man in his mid to late 60s from East India, that area of the world. And even though we had him come to our house at 5:30 in the morning, he was ready to serve our family and happy to do so. It took a little while into the car ride with some polite conversation before he asked me what I do, which I always prefer that people ask me what I do. I feel like there's sometimes when people think that I'm too keen to tell them that I'm a pastor, that I'm about to now accost them and give them a sermon for the next little while, and they stop talking to me whatsoever. So I usually will wait to see if I'm asked. This is a strategy that's paid off many times in my life, and so I waited, and eventually Uday asked, and he did go quiet for a minute or two. But after that short period of silence, he said, can I ask you a question? And I'm not going to go into all the details of the conversation that I had with Uday this morning. I documented those on Instagram the day that it happened. I've written it down. But in essence, Uday wanted to ask me, how do I change? What's my purpose? What's my legacy? How do I leave something behind for the next generation? And that sparked a beautiful conversation between Uday and I. Some of it I'll share with you later. And like I said, some of it, I don't need to go into all the details this morning. But what I wanted to highlight is that I was reminded on that morning that people are searching. That you never know when you're going to have the opportunity to speak about that which has become core to your being if you're a follower of Jesus. Because it's really easy in our day and age to start to believe that nobody wants to hear it, that nobody wants to have a conversation. And if you do have a conversation, the only thing that can happen from it is fighting. This perception has been growing. I think it's even more extreme today than maybe it was many, many years ago, but I remember working at the very first church I ever got a job at as the worship pastor. And I remember the day that I realized I couldn't keep working there. It was the day that my boss told me that he didn't really think that adults came to faith very often, that people changed their lives as young people, but not very much as old people, that most old people weren't interested in hearing about Jesus. And I just couldn't reconcile myself with that way of thinking. And I want to encourage you this morning, if you've kind of gotten to the place where you think that maybe it's all just nobody's looking and nobody's interested, there are people who are looking, and there are people who are interested. But there is also a reality that in our day and age, there are many, many, many barriers to having an authentic conversation about Jesus with other people. And most of those barriers have names. Uday said to me as we pulled up to the airport and we had our conversation and I had shared the gospel with him, in no uncertain terms, he said, "Thank you for having an open conversation with me." He said, so many times when I have these conversations with others, it feels as though they're closed off because they think that I am attacking what they believe. And in all honesty, I'm just curious. Imagine that. Somebody is genuinely interested in your faith and yet feel more attacked by the answers that we give than the open and respectful conversation that we choose to have. I bet you know somebody like this. I bet you know somebody who has genuine interest in questions, in the things that Jesus talks about. And yet their experience with others has not led them to a place where they feel like they can ask their questions openly and honestly. And honestly, most of you, since I'm the outsider here, I'm not from British Columbia, you know people way more personally than I know Uday. Uday and I still text. We were texting this week. We are still texting each other. We are building some kind of relationship. He was asking me how my vacation went. He doesn't know that my plane never got off the ground, or he didn't until earlier this week. Some of you know people way more personally than Uday. You know parents, siblings, partners, children. And you are desperate to help them understand the beauty of who Jesus is. But there's a lot of stuff in the way. They've experienced the things that people build up that get in the way of our being able to really explore and understand Jesus fully. I don't think it's hard for us to imagine that people want elements of the kingdom that we've been exploring through the book of Mark. That people are looking for healing. My house is looking for healing right now. Spiritually and physically, people are looking for healing. They want to have a sense that they belong somewhere, that there's purpose to this life, like Uday was asking, that there might be something bigger than them that exists in this universe, because otherwise the universe doesn't make any sense at all. That they don't have to move across the ocean to be meaningfully living, that sometimes small acts of kindness and love and generosity are made big in the world. That they could be an agent of change right where they live. There are people who need to know that God can provide for them. And that sometimes he does it in such an extravagant way that there are 12 baskets of leftovers to be shared. They are looking for personal, vulnerable, intimate relationships with the God of the universe, and they are looking to be forgiven. And yet, so often we experience things and people getting in the way. And the question that needs to be asked is, how do we stop getting in the way? I would propose to you that Jesus tells us exactly how to get in the way as Mark's third act begins to open. Let's start at Mark chapter 11. Mark chapter 11, verse 1 begins the story that we usually celebrate on Palm Sunday. Jesus enters Jerusalem and is treated like a coming, conquering king. People line up on the streets to wave branches and say, "Holy, holy, holy." How? Hosanna. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And because people are so excited to see Jesus, he offends a whole group of other religious leaders, and they go about trying to discredit him because they know if they leave him in this state, things will be bad for them. Jesus' response to them is gentle and kind, like a good parent who's teaching their children how to grow and move, not becoming angry at their questions, but hoping to lead them towards what Jesus would consider his end game. And Jesus shares his final vision, the kingdom creed, the motto above all mottos. And when he does, it stops them dead in their tracks. Like literally, death is what comes to mind because what Jesus shares with them is so dangerous to what they have built and given their life to. What could be so dangerous that upon uttering it, the questions are over, the game is finished, and death is the only option? Well, here's what Mark chapter 12, verses 28 through 34 record for us. One of the teachers of the law came and heard them talking and debating. Noticing that Jesus had given them a good answer, he asked them, of all the commandments, which is the most important? The most important one, answered Jesus, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. And the second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. I love how Jesus plays with words here. The most important one is actually two, but the two are one. Well said, teacher, the man replied. You are right in saying that God is one and there is no other but him. To love him with all your heart, with all your understanding, with all your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself is more important than all burnt offerings and sacrifices. When Jesus saw that he had answered wisely, he said to him, You are not far from the kingdom of God. And from then on, no one dared ask him any more questions. The thing that they found so dangerous, so intimidating, so worth going after Jesus about was simplicity. The end of religion and the elevation of relationships. This was what they found so offensive, that they had spent so much of their life building up such a religion that they couldn't imagine a world in which religion would come to an end. Jesus wants to give you an entirely new life. And he wants you to fill it with two simple things: love God and love others. If you do this, you will be filled. It sounds easy, doesn't it? But simplicity is not simple. Human beings have proven this. There are so many forces fighting against it. Our opinions, our dogmas, our politics, our priorities, our programs, all the stuff. And so Jesus has given us a new bag with a lighter load, but we want to fill it back up with rocks. More rules. They might not be the same ones, But we just want to keep filling the bag with the stuff that God doesn't want to give us. And our job as Christ followers, in some very important way, is to continue to ask ourselves, how much of this stuff can we keep out of the way of just calling people to love God and love others? And it's incredible to me that Jesus has given us the gift, the privilege of a simple canvas to write the story of our life on. So you got to ask yourself, why did Jesus wait so long to say something so important? Why did it take Jesus 3/4 of the book of Mark to get to the creed? And here's what I think. I think he waited so long because it wasn't designed for him, it was designed for you. It was designed for us. We have been handed the keys to a simple kingdom. And we have been given the privilege of bringing it to life in partnership with the Holy Spirit under his direction in ways that make sense for our days and our ways. We have been given the instructions for how to overcome so much of the hurt, so many reasons for deconstruction, so much of the guilt and shame that people have felt at the hands of religion. And it's like, how do I do it? And God is just like, the KISS principle, keep it simple, silly. Get the first things first. Make everything else less important. I've given you this analogy before. I think there are some things that Christianity absolutely has to hold on to, and we hold it in a closed fist, and we are willing to fight for these things. But there is so much more that's in an open hand that we need not throw punches, create barriers about, but rather could agree to disagree. And if this doesn't work for you, it's okay. There's another church. And as for us, as the people at this church have had conversation, and as I have listened to you respond to some of the things that myself and church leadership have decided are voices of the Lord speaking to us and calling us, there is a simple creed that keeps coming back, and it is this: come as you are. Come as you are. A simple invitation to live in a simple kingdom. We're saying, hey, you don't have to come as I am, right? As I dress, as I worship, as I speak my Christian-y language. None of these things are important enough to keep somebody away from experiencing the kingdom. We just want it to be simple and authentic. And as I've spent time over the summer just trying to whittle it down to something as simple as I can make it, here's what I think. I think we together are being called to build a church. What does it mean to become as you are? What does it mean to build a church like that? We're going to focus ourselves just on 3 simple movements. Movement towards belonging, a movement towards growth, and a movement towards serving. I want us to become really, really passionately effective at extending an invitation to belong and embracing an invitation to belong. Because you know what the hard thing is? You can't help somebody else belong if you don't belong. You can't help somebody else find regular community if you're not engaged in regular community. So look, for some of us, what that means is that when you come here or when you come to anything the church does, you need to be more on the lookout for the person who doesn't yet belong then the people you know belong. Okay? Some of you come and you talk to the same people all the time, and there are people who come and go outside of our doors who need to know that somebody cares. But they won't know unless somebody comes and talks to them about it. There are others of you who believe in Jesus and have called Burnett your home church, but you haven't really embraced belonging because you're looking for belonging in a lot of other places except for the people of God. And you've prioritized those other places of belonging over belonging to the kingdom. And look, if Burnett Church isn't the place where you belong, find a place to belong. It doesn't have to be here. But gosh, if you say this is the place you want to belong, then belong. Belong. Extend and embrace belonging. I think we also have to be a people who seek to grow. It's not just enough to come. It's not just enough to be here, but to actually ask God on a regular basis to speak into your life through the words of the songs, the people you interact with, the scriptures that we open up. Actually look to grow, understand, no matter where you are, no matter what you can come as you are, but don't stay that way. Because God has so much more to write on the canvas of this simple life that He's given and called you to than you will ever know. He wants to fill your bag. And so seeking to grow also means surrendering to growth. There will be things that will challenge us and push us. And it is our joy to be like Jesus, to follow Jesus. You can't follow someone without surrendering to their agenda for your life. It's one thing to go asking, hey, God, like hypothetically, if you were going to grow me, how would you do that? And then for Him to say, well, I want you to deal with these things. And then for you to go, nope, sorry. And that leads us to having a life where we live and love to serve. Jesus said, no greater love has anyone than this, but to lay down his life for others. And this is where the Christian life leads us, that we understand that as we become more mature, we give more of ourselves away. And I promise you that when you get this right, it is a joy and not a pain. A number of people asked me back on the 21st of July. They knew I was supposed to be on vacation, and I came to church anyway. And they were like, why did you come? I said, because I love the church. It's not a job for me just to come here on Sunday mornings. I don't come here just because I'm contractually obligated to do so. This is a church that I love to be at. In fact, when I go other places, had I been on vacation, I would have resisted going to another church. Because I don't feel connected. I don't feel like I belong. I don't feel like I'm my authentic self. I have to be my mom and dad's son or something when I go there. I come here because I love it. And it's a part of my life. And because serving is just what we do. Now here's what I want to know this morning. Here's the participation part. Here's what I want to ask you to do. We want to get a firm grip on where you're at today. I think each one of us can look at these three simple movements of belonging, growing, and serving. Are you still struggling to find your tribe within the larger tribe of Burnett Church? Your pastors want to help you belong. Are you in a space where you know that you are Jesus, but you want to grow in your knowledge of Him? And you want to begin to ask some questions about what parts of your life maybe God is looking for you to surrender. the opportunity for you to just send us a quick text message. Look, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to get your phone out. Everybody who's got a phone, I want you to get your phone out, please. And everybody is here in one way or another. Are you looking to belong? Do you need to grow? Or are you at that place where you have got the information you need? You are solidly Jesus's, but your life now needs to turn the corner to be laid down for somebody else, because that's where this is all going. Belong, grow, and serve. Text one of those words to the number on the screen. I want everybody to do it. This is not the beginning of harassment. I know many of you got text messages from me this week. It's not a trick. We're not going to bombard you like that. I just was really excited about today. But this is a way that we can connect with each other. Not everybody understands what to do with a QR code. That's fine. I think everybody in the room knows how to send a text message. So text us there. We will check it this week. You might get 1 or 2 responses from us looking for some information so we can help. But we want to know, who is it that needs to know that in October we're starting our first semester of group life growth? We want to invite you to that. We want to know who it is that just needs a greater sense of connectivity. We can invest in that. We want to know who it is who's looking to serve, because look, if the word is out there in any way, shape, or form that the staff don't need your help, it's not true. It's especially not true now. And I deeply apologize if that's the impression that you've gotten from us. We need help within the idiom of the simple things that God has asked us to do, right? We're not going to start 1,000 programs. We're not going to dilute it. I get that. We've spent some really intentional time thinking about the things that we do. Everything we do, we believe, fits into one of these categories: belong, grow, serve. And all of them are driven by our values of hospitality, innovation, evangelism, community excellence, and generosity. These things that we have plastered on the wall out there, like, we're really committed to them. And being really committed to it and keeping things simple, yeah, means sometimes we say no, because it's not the right thing for us. It might be the right thing for you. It's not the right thing for us, but that doesn't mean there isn't a place. We as a leadership team deeply believe this is what we were called to do. Not just because Pastor Tim is clever. I deeply believe this is where we're headed. And I wonder if we can imagine it. I wonder if we can see in our mind's eye together this morning a group of people who have come together to be committed to a simple kingdom, who have embraced this beauty of a canvas and have said together, look, given the people that I know, given the days in my life, the brothers and sisters and neighbors and friends and people who don't know Jesus, the people who have had not great experiences with church before, the people who all of our stuff has somehow gotten in the way and caused them to doubt and deconstruct everything. But if we could get out of the way and just show them the simple pathway through the simple kingdom to an authentic relationship with Jesus, what would change? What if we spent our time together thinking about how we could teach our children not to be committed to programs, but be committed to Jesus? All of these people we've talked about this morning, today, your loved ones, they all need him. They all need us. And we all need to make the path to him as clear as possible. Around here, we think that if we invite people to come just as they are, we do it well, and then we help them to belong and to grow and to serve, in Jesus' name, there is a life to the full that we have yet to experience together. I hope that you will commit yourself to it. I hope that you will get involved. I hope that you will serve with us this year.